we are going to have a much more sophisticated approach to contingency planning, working out what's going to happen if, and all the rest. It's all about our customers, and the trouble is our customers take our perfection for granted. They just assume that the Red Prairie software works, that Dunkin' Donuts will turn up, that the spare parts will be there, that Jaguar will be able to produce its cars, and that everything will be fine. And of course, you know that the world is different. You know when you look through the glasses of your customer, that the world looks different from the glasses of the manufacturer, and so on. And I want to look at what it actually means for logistics in the future, because it's not going to be more of the same. One of the challenges that we have is a resource environment. And you can have all kinds of opinions about global warming and sustainability and resource depletion and the rest. But you know, the future is about emotion. It's not so much about event, it's about passion, it's about what our customers think and feel. And I just want to ask you your opinion here today. Put your hands up if you think that over the last 5 years, globally, the amount of passion and emotion generated by conversations about global warming and things like that has gone up. Put your hands up if you do that. Put your hands up if you think over the next 10 years, it's quite likely globally that the amount of passion and heat and energy about global warming, sustainability, resource depletion, how do we feed 9 billion people by 2050, and all of that is going to continue to increase. Put your hands up if you think that's the case. Okay. So you could be the world's greatest skeptic about the science of global warming. It's irrelevant. If you want to know the future of your business over the next 5 to 10 years, you see, the science can't tell you that. The science is simply a bet on what we think might happen to the world by 2050, by which time you may be in your grave. But if you want to see the future of your business in the next 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, then we have to look at passion, we look at emotion, and emotion tells us the future of regulation because politicians are populists, they go with the flow, and as you've told me, the emotion's getting stronger. But you know what? Even if we weren't mentally convinced about the need to protect the planet, there's one vital thing which forces every business in America to go down the same path as the green activists. And it's very simple. It's the price of oil. When oil prices raise above $75 a barrel, then all kinds of things that people did for moral reasons, ethical reasons, because it made sense, suddenly become the most compelling way to improve the bottom line. And so we find a coexistence of two huge forces in our world at the same moment, which together will transform our future. One, a growing passion, unease, concern, anxiety about the future of our planet, and two, a toxic price of oil. Toxic, I say, toxic because toxic to the old ways of doing things, an oil price above $75 a barrel. And that's affecting Coca-Cola, it affects every distributor, it affects every manufacturer, it affects every motor maker, and something else is happening at the same time. Because while we've talked for a whole decade and a half or 2 decades about outsourcing and offshoring and all the rest, the emerging economies to which so many of these jobs have been outsourced have, of course, heated up. So we've got 70% inflation in manufacturing wages in China. We've got in India, at the top end in management, we've got 100% wage inflation going on right now. That's before we had exchange rate changes going on. So the result of this is that all kinds of outsourcing decisions and offshoring decisions that made economic sense from the sheer cost point of view maybe 5 years ago are already looking questionable. And in many of the industries represented here, they will look frankly stupid by 2015, and we're already seeing some of these things start to come back. And there's another reason. It's not just cost. It's also to do with risk and velocity, agility, speed. The fact that we cannot manage supply chains however we do it, unless we fly the product every single night. It's very difficult to manage supply chains with the complexity we now have across very long distances. Just look at Audi. Audi, on the A6 model, they have 85 components to make up a single door. And you can customize your Audi however you like. Now, the 85 different components, or variations of these different components, mean that there are 50,000 different ways in which you as a consumer can configure your customizable Audi 6. And the challenge is making sure that every single one of those combinations of products is there at the same time. And there's another challenge too. We've talked already this morning about the web, the digital society, and the rest. But alongside it is an emotion. And I said before, the future is not about technology, it's not about products, it's not even about innovation. Yes, it's about all of those things, but the future driver is passion. It's emotion, it's how customers actually feel. And let me give you an example of it. Put your hands in the air if you get frustrated when a web page takes 20 seconds to load. Okay, here's another one. Put your hands in the air if you get really angry when you get through to a utility company that says, press 1 for accounts, press 2 for... Okay. Oh, okay. Confession time now. Put your hands in the air if your company has such a robotic answering system. Oh my. See, what happens is we lose sight of what it actually feels like to be a customer, the emotions our customer feels. What you've told me is that robotic answering systems make you feel so mad you feel like the people who put them in should be put in prison, right? Why should I be paid to do the task of receptionist, is what you're saying, right? And what you're also telling me is that life's too short to spend 30 seconds looking at a screen. Now, actually, it's worse than that, because I know that for many of your organizations, you will lose up to 30% of all of your customers in the first 15 seconds, not 30. So 15 seconds is long enough to use a third of your business. Wow. So we are becoming a very time-impatient world. What does that mean for supply chain and logistics? This is what it means. We're going to have to completely rethink what our customers' expectations will be over the next 5 to 10 years. Let's have a look. See, 300,000 apps have been downloaded, different kinds of apps, 7 billion downloads just on the iPhone platform alone, just over the last couple of years, by people who think that, quite frankly, to spend 3 seconds waiting for something is too long. Now, what does that mean when it comes to delivery? Well, this is what it means. See, in the olden days, I remember the good old days, the days when we could get away with ordering a product at 6 o'clock and you could get away with delivering it by 10 o'clock in the morning. In the olden days, overnight was the gold standard, but that's such a last century idea. Yes, it puts all kinds of systems under stress, and there are all kinds of organizations that will do it for you, switching things around the world and so on at extraordinary speed and with amazing complexity. But it is the old days. See, in the new days, we're talking about 10 o'clock in the morning delivery, the 10 o'clock in the morning order for 3 o'clock in the afternoon delivery. Why? Because life's too short to spend 30 seconds waiting for something to happen. Isn't that what you just told me? The web makes us impatient. And it's not just the consumer that's impatient, the manufacturer is impatient. Now, of course, we've already achieved this kind of standard for some time. We see it in the pharmaceutical industry in most countries of the world. We also see it in the automotive repair industry. We've got wonderful systems in place for 3 or 4 hour maximum guaranteed delivery time. And it's 30 minutes to pack and send and so on, but it's still too slow. Why is it slow? See, here's the strange thing, that a pizza can come to your door, but other products can't. So if you order some food from the store, it's going to take till tomorrow, or it might take till Monday to come, unless it's just a hot food, in which case it'll come to your door straight away. I had a challenge recently. I was about to get on a plane, and my power supply had broken from my main computer. And I had 3 hours, 4 hours before I needed to leave home, and it was difficult for me to source it, and I didn't have time to go out. I just wanted someone to bring it to me like a pizza. Put your hands up if you think that's too much to ask. I mean, I can get a pizza to my door. Why on earth can't I get a power supply to my door? So I phone up a whole load of computer shops. Eventually, I find one that's about 6 miles from my home that has the item in stock. Could I get them to deliver it? No. Why not? Actually, the simplest way to deliver it was to use a minicab, a taxi, which is in fact what I did. I said, that's fine, I've paid for it. I'm sending my own car to come and collect my own power supply and bring it to my home. Trouble is, it arrived 10 minutes late. So the minicab was then chasing me down the road to the airport when they gave me my power supply there. This is the future. It's a future where things are happening at astonishing speed, in a way that we couldn't have foreseen customers would have demanded from us maybe 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And of course, it puts stress on all kinds of other things. So then about the last mile and the returns and making sure that every single product that comes in through the door of a home is absolutely correct every single time. We know that 5% of returns can wipe out 50% of the margin for a retailer. At least that was the figure 5 or 6 years ago. But we also now know that many retailers are having to send out 5, 6, 7, or 8, or 9 different sizes of the same product for people who want to wear them all. I don't know what they're going to do with them all, and then they're going to send most of them back again. So we're dealing with a tremendous growth in terms of restocking and the rest. We had this illusion that RFID was going to change our future, that it was going to enable us to locate physically within half a meter every product on every part of every planet. But of course, it's turned out to be more difficult. Not just because the cost has failed to fall as fast as we would have liked, but also because of the problems of metal, water, and other things. Nevertheless, if we could dream the dream, it would be that. It would be that every Dunkin' Donut we can locate. It would be that every tiny microscopic part we know where it is on the face of the earth. And you say, well, yes, with our systems we're still able to do that with barcode reading and the rest. I still say we've got a long way to go. I dream the dream with you that electronically we will know within half a meter where every single item is on the face of the earth and do it in real time everywhere, not just in certain supply chains represented in this room, but in every product, in every part of every business. Can we do it? I think we can. A lot of the future, you know, is not a debate about what will happen, it's more a debate about timing. I want to come back to the issue of energy again, because energy price, as I said, is a great driver. Will energy prices stay above $75 to $100 a barrel or more? I think they will. Could they fall as low as $30 again? It could. For long, I doubt. Now, if energy prices are going to stay high, then that has all kinds of implications for us. Outside of logistics, we are seeing a most extraordinary innovation. It's all part of a $40 trillion green tech boom that's taking place across the world right now. Let me just give you one small example. In the desert around here, in the Arizona desert, we have enough sunlight. If we could put mirrors like these across an area maybe 200 kilometers by maybe 50 kilometers, something like that, we would have enough power to transform the power needs of the whole of America. Now, up until quite recently, that was an illusion because you couldn't get the power from the Arizona desert to New York without frying up the wires all the way along the route and losing most of the power on the way. But then along comes companies like Siemens, who have given us the capacity to channel electricity 3, 4, or even 5,000 kilometers down wires using direct current rather than the alternating current with almost negligible power loss. How does that happen? With alternating current, you lose an awful lot of power in electromagnetic waves. You pick it up with all kinds of hum in radio sets and amplification systems and TVs and things like that. But more importantly, you can see it and hear it with your own eyes. If you're near a high-tension power cable on a wet day, you hear the fizz, right? Zzz, and you can actually watch your electric power just disappearing into the atmosphere. Every wire that has an alternating current through it becomes a radio transmitter. And radio waves are a quick way to lose power. So with DC, which is the same kind of current that you have in a car, which goes from one direction to the other direction and never goes back, you don't get any electromagnetic fog. There's no distribution in that kind of way, and it's a very pure power source. It's technically quite difficult to transform electricity that way from power stations, but it's possible. Now, what that means is that we're now able to power Moscow from the Sahara Desert using today's technology. That's amazing. It's quite costly right now to do it, but we have the mechanism to do it. And we also have extraordinary ways that are coming to us for storing power when the sun isn't shining. One of those is car batteries of electric cars. Put your hands up if you have an electric car, if you own one. Yeah, we have one too in London. You know, what I think about an electric car is that it stores power, if you wish, and it can donate power back to the country when it's needed. Now, if we all here had electric cars and all of them were driving around Arizona and all of those batteries are plugged in at night, what that means is most of the time those electric car batteries are charged, and when the sun isn't shining, those electric cars can donate power back into the national grid. Now, that's just one small but innovative way in which we're finding ways to transform the future in terms of power. Why do I say this? I'm saying because you're going to see similar innovation in the logistics and supply chain areas, and for the same reasons. Yes, it's a sexy story to tell, which wins consumer respect. It's a great media story, but it's compelling from the financial point of view. Let me give you another example from manufacturing. Here is a company, British Sugar, and their job is to cook sugarcane and things like that and to produce granulated sugar. One day they decided that they were going to make their own power as well. So they started they bought a huge gas turbine, rather like the engines which are on jet aircraft, and they used a gas supply to the gas turbine to power electricity, and then they decided not only to produce their own power, but to use the heat from the gas turbine to cook the sugar, and then they had another genius idea. They thought, why don't we collect the gas? So they got a whole load of sewage pipes, enormous sewage pipes, and put them end to end on the back end of this enormous gas turbine that's running flat out, making electricity and cooking the sugar, and connecting on the back end here to a vast jet of hot, moist air full of carbon dioxide and, of course, water. And they pumped this pipe, they created a pipe that was 2.5 kilometers long, and at the end of that 2.5-kilometer tunnel is Europe's largest greenhouse. And in that greenhouse grow 35 million tomatoes every single year. But once they connected that pipe into the greenhouse, the number of tomatoes produced in that space went up from 35 million a year to 70 million a year. If any of you live in Europe or have ever been on vacation in Europe, you have eaten a tomato built from carbon waste from a gas turbine used to cook sugar for British Sugar. Now, I think that's a cool example of innovation. Even cooler, it's profitable. It saves them money. They did it for sheer, naked, willful, bottom-line reasons, and yet it's a fantastic story. It gets the media headlines. It means that I'm talking to you about it. It makes you smile. It makes you think, yes, this is a fantastic example of great green tech used appropriately for the shareholders' interests, to serve customers well, and to preserve the resources of the planet. And that is precisely the spirit that we are going to see in logistics through and through, 100 times over. Because, of course, every time you use a piece of Red Prairie software and it saves a bit of cost, every time it reduces a bit of theft, every time it enables you to have your product at a slightly lower level in the warehouse, every time it enables you to work out a faster and more reliable route to get the product from A to B, you have saved money. You've saved money almost certainly, at the same time saving energy and resources. And yet, sometimes there's a sting in the tail, and here's one. You see, in America this year, 25% of all the grain produced on the fields of America will be burnt in cars or your trucks. Does that matter? Yes, it might. I gave a lecture not so long ago to the Pentagon about ways in which we can reduce international tension and create more security. One of the factors that has contributed to the unease and demonstrations and chaos that's unfolding in the Middle East right now is food prices. One of the contributors to food prices may possibly be the fact that people like the European Union are burning food in vehicles. Does it matter? You see, I said to you, the future is not about science or technology. The future is about emotion. The future is about passion. So the future is not necessarily based on what is true. It's based on what people feel might be true. And when the UN itself has blamed 70% of the last, but before this one, the last big food price spike on biofuels policy, you can see why in some parts of the world where there are riots on the streets, and it's not just the Middle East, and they're rioting because food prices have gone up so high, in some parts of the world they may just point the finger at a logistics or a supply chain process that is burning a whole load of their food in vehicles. Does it matter? Yes, it might. And in the last, not this current food spike, but the last one in 2007-8, there were riots in 33 nations and one country fell. In the current food riots, we're seeing a lot more. Now, when we come back to sea, rail, road, of course, most product is going to continue to go by sea, and we're going to continue to see fantastic, wonderful opportunities in terms of shipping. I'm astonished, you're not, of course, because this is your industry, but I am astonished that for the same price as moving a product 100 kilometers, 150 kilometers in the UK, I can move on land, I can move the same product by sea from London to China. Now, I know that's partly because so many of those containers were going back empty, having brought their fridges and their cars and everything else as well. But nevertheless, we can go further still. There are all kinds of efficiencies we can do if we work with government to make sure that the ports are aligned with motorway corridors, are aligned with railways, aligned with motorways, and all kinds of other things join up in a coherent way for maximum effectiveness. And certainly rail is an incredible opportunity for our future. Every ton of freight that moves 1 mile of rail instead of by truck reduces greenhouse gases by around 2/3. And US railways are making a massive help to US industry right now. Already, more than 40% of all freight is being taken by rail in tons. That's more by rail than trucks, boats, barges, planes. 70% of all autos produced in the US are going by rail. 30% of all US grain goes by rail. 65% of all coal goes by rail. And it's partly for that reason that we will continue to see investment in railway networks. But in trucks, too, we're going to see big savings and a rethink about the efficiency of trucks and trucking. It's quite easy to produce more than 30% energy efficiencies in trucking, and these are some of the ways you can do it. Just low-energy tires, 4.3%. Now, of course, I promise you, you're not going to get all of these savings, okay? If you add them all together, it gets to more than 100%, okay? But if you were to take a relatively inefficient truck and do just one of these things to it, this is what will happen. Streamlining, that's the fairings on the outside, the front, the back, the fins on the back. You're talking another 12%. Just lengthening a truck by 1.5 meters on average produces quite a significant efficiency, just because the other 1.5 meters goes through for free in terms of air resistance. The hybrid engine, 30%. You can salvage the heat that's from the engine, recycle it, make power out of it, and turn it into aircon. There's technology to do that. That will save you 5% of your energy costs. You can make power out of your shocks every time you go over a bump in the road. That's wasted energy. There are shock absorbers on the market that generate electricity every single time the truck goes up and down on a bump. By reducing speed, of course, that's a very quick way to save energy. And it's the same with shipping. If you reduce the speed of your ship from 24 knots down to 20 knots, you save something like a quarter of all the energy. Driver training, another 5 to 10%. But, you know, one of the biggest scandals for me in this whole thing, or one of the biggest opportunities, is these empty trucks. And there's just one retailer who shall remain nameless, but you might be able to guess, in the US, who said that they waste 25 million trucking miles a year carrying air. There's absolutely nothing in the truck on the return journey. Now, that is an incredible opportunity for us. And of course, if it's made more complex by the fact that every truck is an advertisement for that particular company, even though it's just carrying air 50% of the time. If trucking was much more integrated, so we had different companies able to utilize the same resource, then we'd be talking a different story. More than 30% of all EU truck journeys are completely empty. To make it even more of a scandal in the EU, our own systems only allow 3 further deliveries in 7 days from one truck before they have to return to their country. We actually force, by law, trucks to run empty because each of our individual microscopic countries, many of which are even much, much smaller than an individual state here, are so fiercely protective of their own trucking industries that they are more or less forbidding truckers from doing sort of the equivalent of multi-state deliveries here. If you just look at the EU petrochemicals industry, we're talking about 1,500 million tons of movements a year. 8% of all tons moved of freight of any kind, including retail, across the whole of the European Union are just plastics and other petrochemical products. We're talking about 60 billion a year spent on transport in euros. And yet, 100 million kilometers a year of trucking could be saved at a single stroke. I was talking at the European petrochemical industry recently. I said to them, what would be the cost of doing this? You see, here's the problem. Well, you've got a factory over here in Frankfurt, and this factory over here needs plastics, and is ordering polythene granules from Liverpool. And they're coming on a truck along, it's 2 or 3 days on the highways. A truck is carrying polythene pellets from your factory in Liverpool to Frankfurt. What we don't know is that actually, at the same time, we've got another factory in Southampton over here. He's ordering polythene granules all the way from Paris. This is madness. I said, what would it cost to sort this out? So you've got products passing themselves on the same trucks carrying identical product, passing each other at a combined head-on velocity of over 120 kilometers per hour, 130 kilometers per hour. They're all going to go back empty, and they're carrying identical product across each other's boundaries. What an utter, crazy, manifest, stupid nonsense. How much would it cost to sort that out? What do you think the answer was? 100,000 euros a year. I said, well, why can't we do it? Well, you don't understand how complex these things are. I say, well, what do you mean? Well, you see, some petrochemical companies, they change the formulations of their products. So one man's polyethylene is not quite the same as another man's polyethylene. I said, please don't tell me that. Surely we can sort these things out. Actually, we have a moral duty to do so. Don't we? Hello? Isn't it manifest nonsense to find the same product crisscrossing America, to find iPads going from let's say New York down to Washington, D.C., and another set of iPads going from Washington, D.C. to New York? Isn't this crazy? Crazy? We should sort it out. There should be one man in the sky who can see when iPads are moving from one place to the other. He says, well, actually, you don't need to do that, because actually here in Scottsdale, we can get the iPads in Phoenix. We just do it as a product swap. Could it happen? Yes, it could. Should it happen? It should. Will it happen? Not sure. But it should. Actually, within this room, you have the collective muscle to make these things happen. Because you have the knowledge, you have the intelligence, you have the infrastructure to create a really intelligent, smart, joined-up logistics and supply chain management process. It's utter madness that within the computer systems represented in this room are the identical products crisscrossing each other all the time. So I think there's another stage we should go in terms of efficiency, and it has to happen. And with it is required a consolidation. In the EU, we've got over, I think, 4,000 over 4,000 different trucking companies. The largest haulier has only 2% of the market. These things really don't help. We need consolidation. So, in conclusion, what we're talking about is an amazing, exciting, exhilarating opportunity to do loads more with an awful lot less. To do something that's really, really groundbreaking in terms of how we think about supply chains, about improving customer service, about reducing costs, about conserving resources, and generally doing the right thing. And I think that is just a phenomenal opportunity right now. And it's all part of building a better world. What does it mean to build a better world? This is the ultimate leadership speech. You know what? I have been to so many leadership speeches, and people talk about, the CEOs talk about their profits and their bottom line numbers and their Excel spreadsheet figures and all the rest of it. But you know what? I don't think I've ever met a human being who gets out of bed in the morning and says, "Oh, thank God I'm alive today. Let's go and make some more Excel spreadsheet numbers." Perhaps you have. I've been trying to write my 15th book. It's called People Who Get Out of Bed to Make Excel Spreadsheet Numbers. A case history, 50 people. I haven't had one nomination yet. People get out of bed to achieve things. They get out of bed to do something which they think is important. They get out of bed, yes, they get out of bed to pay the bills, that's true. They get out of bed for all kinds of reasons, but rarely just to make a number. Rarely just to make a number. And we can give people all kinds of far greater reasons to get out of bed than that. To understand why it is that what we do is important, that supply chains actually really matter. That people lose their jobs when products don't turn up because factories close. And that actually, when supply chains happen well, it means that someone's wedding dress arrives on the day they're getting married and not the day after. These things really, really matter. And that when we're doing these things, we do it to join the world up, to create a more prosperous, safe, and secure future. And we're doing it in a way that contributes to, yes, your well-being as an employee. Yes, your family's well-being, because they're enjoying that too. But we're also working in a way which respects the community, enhances the environment, and will hand our world on in a better state than it was at the beginning. And we did it all and made some money at the same time. How cool is that? Thank you very much.